Welcome, Commander. Got another episode of the Building Walls. What the heck was that?
That was that. Hey, hello,
the symbol
everybody.
of freedom.
No, that was the Wayne's World, and we're live in 5, 4, 3. That's what it is, man. It's good, but hey, good to be here this week. I'm excited. I think we've got an unreal lineup here. I'm super excited to get through all this stuff.
Unreal.
So
hey, if you're out there listening, if you do listen to us in the future, like us on Spotify, subscribe to our page on the YouTubes, our Facebook page. Just get out there and like us, like and share.
You know what? Here's the thing. We're taking over Spotify. There's a big gap that's going to be opening up in the podcast realm on Spotify. And so we're looking to step into that.
Yeah.
And we promise not to, say the N-word. We promise not to say anything too controversial. We want to be pro CDC. And I'm willing to sell out my soul to the Democrats. In fact, I love the left.
If they can just take some of that disposable or the salary cap, so to speak, that is opened up for them, I mean, I will be a willing participant. I will never say the Nancy word, or was the N word for something different than Nancy Pelosi?
Well, I identify as Christina now, so just whatever it takes.
I can be a Chadwick if I have to be. I don't know if that's feminine enough. Not sure.
I don't think that's very feminine. But
no, there's a magazine though called that, and it's a female magazine. Chadwick.
Oh,
yeah, I learned that a few years ago.
Well then, either way, man. I'm just saying, Spotify. Dude, check us out.
If you're
Spotify,
out there,
if we're gonna take over. Find us, like us, subscribe. It's good. You're eating your sausage. What are you doing? You're starting off with the sausage fest.
Dude, this sausage is so good. It's a sausage fest for tonight. If you like,
what do you got there?
It's like a maple syrup sausage is what it tastes like. It's fantastic.
Maple syrup?
Yeah, it's like a maple sausage, breakfast sausage link. So good.
Dude, but it's like 8 o'clock.
Right, so you don't want to eat anything bad. You don't want to carb load a lot. So just grab a hunk of meat and cram it in your mouth, Help to curb the appetite.
I mean, I've had a long day. I mean, it'd be great if she understood the assignment,
Man, speaking of a long day, I'm really curious. I wish we could find out more of what happens to some of this stuff in China. Sometimes I just miss the way he says China,
I do too.
So with the Olympics,
have you even watched the Olympics?
No.
I haven't. I mean, I love the Olympics.
Yeah, me too.
Literally because I'm just like, I'm done. I don't even care.
Right. I don't want to see any more of this pandering. I don't want to see. So what's crazy is that there's a Daily Wire article that came out. And the video's there. If you can cue the video, Mr. Producer, this Dutch reporter, it looks like he's in the middle of the night, maybe early morning, and no one's around. And he's reporting on the Olympics. And as he's reporting, you see these Chinese thugs or whoever they are, like pushing him away, telling him that he can't do that. Why? Why can't he just report on the Olympics where no one's around? Like, what is going on over in China? What is going on?
So was he just in the wrong spot, or what do you mean? They dragged him away?
Yeah, they pretty much they grabbed him and ushered him from where he was because they didn't want him reporting, is what it appears to be.
All right.
This is super weird.
Can we play the clip? Because I gotta
play
see
this clip. You can't understand them.
We gaan naar China en onze correspondent Sjoerd ten Daas. Sjoerd, staat vlakbij het stadion. Wat gaat China de komende uren laten zien?
Ja, 咱们往前走，哥们儿。
哎，先等一会儿，我先算新闻联播。Ja, we worden hier inmiddels, je merkt het, al weggetrokken. We zijn net ook al bij een ander gebied weggezet. Dus ik vrees dat wij later even bij moeten terugkomen. Dat kan halen, ja.
Denk ik ook, Sjoerd.
Kom maar.
We gaan door met het volgende onderwerp. Ja.
Hey, so you're trying to figure out what's going on. One, I mean, no one speaks each other's language. So
what in God's name is even happening?
What are they trying to do here? And according to the correspondent, what he said was he was getting pulled away. As you might notice, we have also been forced to leave another area, he says. So he was forced to leave, and he said that, what does he say here? The interruption came from a man wearing a black jacket and a red band around the sleeve, appears to distinguish him as a public security volunteer. And essentially, they just didn't want him to be reporting anything. And they forced him to leave wherever he was, and they were following him around.
I mean, they're the host country for the Olympics.
Right.
And there's all these countries from around the world that are going to be participating in this. And of course, their media is going to be there. So I'm not understanding what the problem is. Why can't he report?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is that it's a communist country. They do whatever they want to do. And what I find whatever's going on over there, what I find very appealing about all of this, or interesting, is that Nancy Pelosi, who, 10, 20 years ago was very stout against China. But now she's like, you know what? Our athletes are just there to participate, and tries to rebuttal every comeback against China. People who are bashing China. She's very against that now, which is crazy, because then not only is she not against insider trading, apparently, unless you do it.
Unless you do it, yeah.
But she's also
against you getting ahead.
Yeah, she's against China too, unless they're paying her, right?
China.
I mean, doesn't all this seem just really, really strange? Like Pelosi not wanting to do it. You got this reporter being pushed away. Just trying to figure out all of what's going on here. What's some of the other stuff that you've heard about China?
I mean, I've literally tuned out on NBC, and maybe I'm just getting old. Maybe I'm the cranky old man at 45, just done playing the games. If we're gonna be dumb enough to let a country like China host the Olympics, and we're not going to address the atrocities that are happening in that country with and that's what I don't understand. We have the left here, and they're all for the human rights and everything, and why, but then they just ignore China. It's not that bad here in America. And you want to look at what in the God's name, how do you justify supporting a country that has genocide? Literally, I'm not down with it, and I'm not going to participate. And all those companies that want to support all these things, that agenda, Coca-Cola, IBM, McDonald's, I'm done. I'm out. You do you. I'm going to do me.
Yeah, there's such a handful of companies who are sponsoring this, and they never talk about the enormity of slavery in China on its own citizens in internment camps, right? But it's okay for Whoopi Goldberg to say stupid things about the Holocaust. But it's not okay, but it's also okay for China to enslave their own people. When we live in America, where you would never see a reporter being pushed off the corner like that just because. I mean, we're over here in America trying to put segregation back in schools.
I mean, for real.
What is going on?
They're the ones. Yeah, good Lord. I think, you take like Whoopi Goldberg. Like, I totally disagree 1,010 trillion% of what she said. But you know what? I also think it's America. You're allowed to be an idiot. That's the whole point. I don't want to cancel Whoopi Goldberg. But then the problem I have is if the other side is like, no, when somebody says something, they're going to cancel the conservative voice, or they don't like something. Well, then, okay, we're just going to have to be fair across the board. If we're going to do that, then Whoopi, I'm sorry. Based on the rules that you guys want, you're canceled.
Canceled.
Have a great one. And if you don't like it, try China. Have a good day. See what happens there. Because they won't cancel you. They'll just kill you.
Part of it that always strikes me odd is that they don't want to speak out against these countries, and they don't want to be against any of these countries that are the exact opposite, and not in a good way, of what the U.S. is right now in our culture. Yet they don't want to go over there and live, right? Like, if you're so against these countries, then go live there. Like, what are you doing? Go support them. Give them all your money. Let it be known how great they are, if that's what you believe.
They never do that. That's when it was 2016, and they were like, Donald Trump wins the election, I'm moving to Canada. Well, you didn't. You stayed here, and you complained the whole time. I was hoping that Rosie O'Donnell was going to move. Like, you promised us that you would move, and you didn't. So now we're stuck with you.
Broken promises.
And you're just, you're broken promises. So dumb.
So here's what gets me, though, is people start sharing stupid stuff like this on the internet. If we got that picture queued, and granted, I did hear some stories that China does not have snow. They have to make and create all of their snow. But can we not spread stupid images like this, saying that the Winter Olympics now in China is of them by a nuclear plant doing downhill skiing?
That's awesome.
I mean, because my first thought when I saw this picture was like, this can't be real. Like, I need to look it up. But
and then you kind of wonder, you're like, is it real?
Yeah, right. But then people look at this and don't bother to think and say, hey, is this real or not? And, and then you start spreading stuff like this. And then you're at a McDonald's and you're standing in line and you're not wearing your mask. But someone walks in and they are. And they're like, why aren't you wearing your mask? And you look at them and go, did you see the downhill skiers in China right next to the nuclear power plants the other day? And then you look like the idiot, right?
That you are the idiot.
Dude, attack
helicopter. Is that like Darth Vader?
Like, what is that? There? Or what's going on?
What's going on?
What's up?
We always hear this noise like
you sound like Darth. Yeah, Darth Matthew.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys don't hear that. Or sorry, the podcast doesn't hear that. You guys do, though.
Oh, jeez.
So we're just off on our own, like, whatever. I guess
you guys are like, what is that?
Yeah, no. I was waiting for Chris to be like, Chad, I am your father.
I am your father.
No, if you want to know what it is, I'll tell you what it is. It is this. That is what you're hearing.
Doucher. That's fantastic. All right, so let's get into some more of these little intro topics.
Looks like that picture right there. If you go back, if you're watching live or look us up on YouTube, and just
if they can even see that,
it looks like the studio just blew up. There's smoke everywhere. So good.
Yes. So let's jump into some other intro topics here. This one reported by CNN Politics, and I was so confused reading the headline. You really got to read the article. So CNN reports
Come
Florida
on, man.
Governor Ron DeSantis signals support for Don't Say Gay bill. And as you read into it, I don't know why their headlines that, because it's totally confusing. But DeSantis, who's a Republican, said it was entirely inappropriate for teachers and school administrators to have conversations with students about their gender identity, saying that in some schools, children are told, don't worry, don't pick your gender yet. DeSantis, though, also acknowledged, I don't think it's happening here in large numbers. So I applaud him for getting out in front of this. But Chris, you go to school, or your kid goes to school. She comes home one day and says, Daddy, guess what the teacher said? The teacher said, I don't have to worry about picking my gender yet. What kind of conversation are you having with your kid? Because everyone knows what gender you are when you come out of the womb, even before.
Yeah, they can tell you before you even get here. You know, it's a boy, it's a girl. I'd probably say, you're right. You don't have to worry about it because it was decided 12 years ago. You're a girl. So moving right along.
Yeah, it's why are we taking such simple things and making them so complex?
I don't know.
This is not following the science, because these are the same people that who was that other guy running for governor in Virginia? You had Youngkin, and then you had McAuliffe, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah,
McAuliffe was the one that said that parents aren't like smart enough or whatever to make decisions for their kids in school.
they're not.
Shouldn't
They're
be a
not
part of the conversation.
responsible. They should spend less time, about the school boards, because the school board is filled with professionals who are better positioned to lead their children.
Right. Yet they can't even follow the science. Simple science of biology.
9th grade biology.
Dude, I thought you were about to say it. 9th grade biatch.
9th grade biology.
But where do you think stuff like this is going to go? I mean, I think personally that it's going to continue to get trumped, so to speak. Governor Youngkin in Virginia, the Supreme Court there held up a bill that they can make decisions to not force a mask mandate in Virginia schools. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I feel like the adults are starting to step up and get back in charge again. It's kind of like we were busy doing a lot of other things, but then these, the AOCs and the squad and these, the Pelosi's of the world, they're so asinine and insane with their approach to solving problems that I honestly believe, Chad, that they just create more problems so that they have something to do.
That's pretty much what it seems like, right?
It seems like they make things up so that they can have, and then they got to double down on it. Like everyone's like, that's insane. Oh no, we don't know what gender you are.
Hey, Mr. Producer, can we cue that next video? It was an Instagram video that someone sent me, and this is why I think we're kind of heading in the right direction. A CNN health analyst came out, and I guess now that what's his face is gone, Zucker, isn't that his name? They can be a little more free to say things as they choose.
I do. There was and is a time and place for pandemic restrictions, but when they were put in, it was always with the understanding that they would be removed as soon as we can. And in this case, circumstances have changed. Case counts are declining. Also, the science has changed. We know that vaccines protect very well against Omicron, which is the dominant variant. Everyone 5 and older have widespread access to vaccines. And we also know about one-way masking, the idea that even if other people around you are not wearing masks, if you wear a high quality mask, that also protects you, the wearer, too. And so in this case, I'm not saying, I don't think anyone really is saying that no one should ever wear masks, but rather that the responsibility should shift from a government mandate imposed from the state or the local district or the school. Rather, it should shift to an individual responsibility by the family, who can still decide that their child can wear a mask if needed.
Do you agree with the move?
What has taken 2 years for this to happen? She's literally saying what we've been saying for 2 years now. A vaccine protects you, yourself. A mask protects you. It does not protect anyone else. A vaccine does not protect anyone else. It protects you.
Yes.
Where do you think this is coming from?
Why would that is the biggest fallacy that they have, is like, then they said, well, you have to be vaccinated to protect me. And it's like, hold on, I'm vaccinated and I'm not protected unless you go get vaccinated too, which doesn't make any sense, because why would you have to go get vaccinated for me to be safe if my vaccine works? It, like, fundamentally, logic does not make sense. And that's the problem that a lot of people have with it. And they're like, so you do you. If you feel that it works, then go get it. And in that video, I mean, she makes a great point. See, that's the thing. Everybody has had a chance to get vaccinated if they want to. The availability is there. So we need to move past the government instituted mandates and things like that. And it does need to shift to an individual responsibility of how you want to live your life and what risk you want to take.
Right, which is the same thing for the chickenpox vaccine when you're a kid, right? It's up to your parents. It's up to you to do that for your family if that's what you choose to do. And if you don't find it safe, if a doctor says it's not safe for whatever medical reason, then you have that ability too. But for them to force vaccines upon other people when, like you said, exactly like you said, it doesn't protect others. It protects yourself.
And Chad, I had someone say that about the chickenpox, response, and say, well, you have to have the chickenpox vaccine in order to go to public school. They make you do that. And I'm like, yes, that is correct. And they have buttloads of data on that vaccine. Years and years and years.
Right. They know what the side effects are.
It's not experimental. Unlike the one that is now that just got streamlined. So that's the difference. People go, well, the technology's been around forever. Yes, well, that vaccine still has not. It had to be streamlined. Do I think that it was a great idea? I do think it was a great idea to get that up and running for the vulnerable. But that's the problem, is when you say, like, well, we got this vaccine, we got it up, but it's only going to work if everyone takes it. Like, you have to take it and I have to take it. Well, you're not ever, then that's a flawed program, because you are not going to get everybody. You're just not.
And this is such an experimental vaccine that people are starting to develop myocarditis from it, which is inflammation of the heart, and especially in teens and young adults. And this is part of the reason why they're pushing out against it, because they didn't know that these were possible side effects until you, the experiment, took the vaccine and got an inflamed heart, which, in case you didn't know, is a very serious health condition. So people who were seemingly fine.
I would rather get COVID and roll the dice and see if I got better than have an enlarged heart or something going on with my heart. Just saying. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm going to put it right on the table. I would rather have COVID and I'll have the sniffles. I'll get, some tough breathing for a couple days. And then I'm going to get, I got better. Yeah. 99.98% better. Okay. Awesome. I'll take my chances.
Yeah. And this is a lot of the stuff that they're trying to censor from Joe Rogan's podcast on Spotify. They don't want these things to be heard.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they don't want the truth. But before we jump into that, I just want to get to this last intro topic because this one is great.
Yeah, our intro, that's been half an hour.
That's right. So because of, or to help with racial equity, the Biden administration is funding programs to get this, distribute crack pipes for free. When I say crack pipes, yes, I'm referring to the drug crack cocaine. And they want to make sure that these people in not as well-off areas who may not have as much money can help get a free crack pipe. Because that's what racial equity's all about, right?
I mean, is this the Hunter Initiative? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, whether you need this thing for crack or meth or whatever, any illicit substances, it's all good.
The president of the United States said that's one of the smartest people he knows is his son, Hunter, with his crack pipe. So let's give them to everybody. Let's get some racial equity going.
One of the smartest people he knows.
Dude, I don't even know what to do with that one. That just...
At
first, I'm looking at it. You see that, we pulled that story from the Daily Wire, and that's not Babylon Bee. That's not... that's you kind of are expecting, this is satire, right? This is not real. Oh, shit, this is real. Oh, okay. Wow. Really? Well, for what reason? Racial equality. Well, I guess, all those people that feel slighted, through the years, they want some reparations. Well, we're not going to give you reparations, but best we can do is give you a crack pipe. That should be a meme. That should be a meme right there. I might make that and put it on our page. The guy from the Vegas bartering thing.
Yeah, Pawn Stars.
Pawn Stars. Can't give you reparations. Best I can do is a crack pipe. Thanks, Joe Biden.
That'd be such a great meme. So let's get on to some good censorship stuff. We've already been hitting about China.
How
to
come
censor everything.
We never get it censored.
We will one day.
Uncensored.
There's a lot going on with Joe Rogan right now. You got Neil Young thinks that he has such influence with these new generations that he's trying to get people fired. He's trying to get everyone to take their music off of Spotify because he doesn't like what Joe Rogan has to say. So he thinks that it's okay for him to say whatever he wants to say, but it's not okay for Joe Rogan to get some of the most educated people in this world onto his own podcast show and ask them questions and get their take about the things that they see and find and have done in life. Whether you agree with their points of view or not, he has people who are left-leaning and people who are right-leaning on his show. So if you're going to censor part of it, then censor all of it. Because do you not like some of what he does, or do you not like all of what he does? Because if you're trying to censor him for a small portion of it, is it really him? Or are you upset because Neil Young, no one listens to your music anymore? I mean,
so much for rocking in the free world.
What's your take on some of this where, Spotify is trying to, they're taking away episodes from Joe Rogan, but now they're coming back and saying, they're not going to do as much. And it's like a flip-flop game here.
It's true attack, the assault. We're about to see, how it really shakes out. But you got people coming to point out their support for Joe Rogan, who is just a dude who has a podcast. He's not much different than us, except for he has higher level, caliber guests, and it's like 3-4 hours long, and does it pretty frequently. He's got great content. Here's the thing. He is the embodiment, if you will, of what the podcast genre should be. Open dialogue, conversing, having, just differing viewpoints in a constructive manner, not like, a panel on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC where the two people fight, on whatever topic they're fighting. He's actually having real calm discussion and an intellectual discussion. That's what it's all about.
There's a lot too. You hear, Joe Rogan doesn't really go back at anyone. If you've listened to a good number of his shows, he just sits there and asks them questions based on what they believe, and he might come back with a differing viewpoint through that question. But really, all his goal is to engage in meaningful discussion.
Right.
And the best part is you don't have to listen to it. So what are you trying to censor?
And so that's the thing. So they're trying to get him on this misinformation of COVID, which is such crap right now, because the whole thing needs to be done with to begin with. And then that didn't work. So now we need to go back and find all the times that he was a racist, and he used the N-word. And I'm like, awesome. Yeah, you want to cancel him over that? Perfect. I'm down for that. Every artist on Spotify who has ever uttered the N-word needs to be gone too. And I don't think the rap community is going to enjoy that too much. You're all gone.
Yeah, but it's okay if they use it.
No, it's not okay. It's either all, you don't get to be in the middle. Nope. If we're going to agree that that's not okay, then it's not okay.
Right.
There's no okay about it ever. Let's eliminate it. Period.
Either the word is good or bad, and if you think it's only good for certain people, that makes you racist.
Correct.
That is the literal definition.
And an idiot.
Yes, and an idiot. What I like is the free market. I love the free market. Rumble comes out. The CEO of Rumble, a new video streaming platform out there. He comes out and offers Joe Rogan $100 million over the next 4 years to move his show solely to Rumble.
Yep.
And after that, now you see Spotify kind of walking back, right? They don't want to potentially lose their biggest person.
It's the number one podcast. We're coming for you, Joe. We're coming for you. The Building Walls podcast. It's not quite as a catchy name as, the Joe Rogan Experience, but, whatever.
It's not quite as catchy of a name. Yeah, just call it the Chad and Chris Experience.
Exactly. CNC.
Then maybe we can puff up a few more views, right? Chad and Chris Experience. What I think is cool is Rumble it's definitely coming on the scene, but it's not a YouTube, it's not a Spotify. But the fact that the CEO is looking forward, right? He understands that if Joe Rogan were to come over, it's going to net him way more than the $25 million a year he plans on paying Joe Rogan. The ad revenue,
blow up.
The viewership, the listenership is going to explode.
Right? Which begs the question, these social media sites with their approach that's been over the last couple of years, where they're fact checking and they're doing all these things, don't you feel, Chad, that is acting more as a publisher and not as a platform? And if they're a publisher, then I think that we should send Facebook an invoice, for publishing our content. That's our content. They published it. They fact checked it. and they published it. And so they need to pay us as the talent.
Mm.
Or if they don't want to pay us,
class action.
then they can agree that you're not a publisher, you're just a platform. And so you can check your fact checkers at the door and have a nice day.
Check your fact checkers at the door. I like that. That's good. We might have be on the lookout for the Building Walls class action lawsuit.
We should do this. We should send an invoice to Facebook. I mean, we forgot how many episodes. This is our 70th episode.
Ooh, yeah.
And we should send one to Google, YouTube, and we should send one to Facebook. I've been on Facebook for 12, 13 years, 14 years, going on 14 years now, of providing content for them that they've published. Well, you know what? The publisher has to pay the author because then they make money off of it. And if they want to fact check me, which they're apparently okay with doing, that's fine. You're just going to pay me for my content now. What do you think?
I think it's a great idea.
Send some invoices. Let's do that this week. We'll find out if we get a response.
So let's start getting into the meat and potatoes here.
The rant.
Rant. I was trying to cue it up for you.
I mean, yeah, I'm ready to move on. So we got a special intro, right? We got a special intro. So let's go.
Ooh, the weekly rant. Look at that. So coming at you here. I'm ready. I got, let me show you some. A Kirkland Seltzer. This is the Costco brand of seltzers. You know, I love it when Costco comes out with their own branded stuff. It's always so quality. Their clothes, the seltzers, the golf clubs, whatever you want. They just about got in their own brand. And these are pretty good. They're a little more fruity flavored. So I enjoy a good Kirkland Seltzer. Comes in a 24 pack because you can't buy anything at Costco that's not in bulk. So, of course, you have to buy 2 cases worth of seltzers. But to get into it, I just want to touch base on a little bit of this wild, there's really not a better word for it, but hypocrisy and the stupidity that comes with the COVID stuff and some of these government mandates and all that crap. So they're in communist China. And the Canada-Russia women's hockey game was delayed at first. They were waiting on Russia to come back with their testing, which we all know Russia, there's some more commies. So they were probably trying to fabricate tests, do whatever they were doing. But what they decided instead is that while these women were skating around the ice, they would all wear KN95 masks under their helmets. And this is reported by ESPN. So that after the second period, it came down. The Russian tests were finally in. Everyone was good to play. But Canada still chose to wear the masks. Imagine wearing these masks under your helmet and you're breathing profusely, heavy breathing. One, not only is that not good for your respiratory system as a high achieving athlete, but 2, is it really doing anything? What are we doing here? This is utter stupidity. And then, you know, Canada did win the game. It must have been the masks. That's all I can say. It's just, this stuff is, you can't make this stuff up. This is like a George Orwell novel. You cannot make this up. And then I love seeing these tweets that come out from our administration. Like good old Uncle Joe back in 2020 when he wasn't the president yet, talking about 220,000 deaths already. He says, if you hear nothing else I say, hear this. Anyone who is responsible for that many deaths should not remain president of the United States. Now, the U.S. passes 900,000 COVID-19 deaths. So according to what he said, he should not remain president of the United States. And the funny part about this, I was watching more of that Robert Malone show on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he was saying that in hospitals and different healthcare clinics like that, if they see that someone's dead and they bring him in and they're DOA, dead on arrival, they will still test them. And if they test positive for COVID, they now get paid more money because of that. And then they rule that a COVID death. So it's crazy. He even said, I forget what the exact reference was. I believe it was a gunshot wound. Even if they died from a gunshot wound, they would test them for COVID. And then they would make it a COVID death. Are these people like imbeciles? No, they're not. They're following the money. They get paid to do this stuff, so they're going to do it. That's your government. That's your president, not my president. I always hated that when people would say that about Trump. I'd be like, no, sorry, he is your president. So more of the hypocrisy here. This one's great. I appreciate the additional info, and we can probably roll this into it a little bit at the end here. But there's been a ton about sports and racism in sports, and they need more diversity. So Brad Holmes, the general manager of the Detroit Lions, is one of 7 black NFL managers in the league. There's 32 teams. He's one of 7. 32 divided by 8 is 25%. So you knock that down a little bit. Somewhere between 20 and 25% is the number of black general managers in the league. This is the exact opposite of racism.
21.9%.
21.9%.
22% if you round up.
So 22%. Well, there's only somewhere between 14 to 17% of the U.S. population is black. So that number is 5% higher, approximately. Therefore, that means they're discriminatory against whites and white people or Asians or Indians or whoever else in the NFL. Because if that wasn't the case, if they were racist against blacks in management of NFL, whether it's the head coach or general management, that number would have to be below 17%. At best, it would have to be below 17% and drastically below, because it's only 5% higher. So I'm not going to sit here and call it racist or anything like that, because that would be stupid. But then you have the NBA. Let's talk about racism in sports. These NBA players who get paid an enormous amount to not even be great NBA players. The contracts in the NBA are wild. You know, I don't think there's enough white players in the NBA, because between black salaries and white salaries, the amount of black people in the NBA far outweighs the number of white people. That's extremely racist. That means you're giving more money to black people to play the same sport. According to a racial equality activist, the NBA in 2020 was composed of 74.2% black players, 16.9% white, 2.2% Latino, and then the rest were classified as other or whatever else. So there's quadruple, more than that, the number of black players than white players in the NBA. That is extremely racist. Why aren't whites being given a fair shot in the NBA? Totally uncalled for.
No, it's not racist at all. All I can think of is that intro we had. Nah, it's not racist at all. It comes from China.
Dude, I feel like at some point when someone when we blow up and we go viral, they're gonna look back on some of these episodes. We're gonna start getting censored left and right.
Oh yeah. We're definitely censored.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about racism, and you said white people are being racially profiled. Yeah, in the NBA. Hey, Chad, why do you think that is? I don't know. Because maybe black people are better at basketball than white people? What a shocker. That's like, we pay for the things that are good, that are great. And I'm sorry, but LeBron James is pretty good at basketball. He's a complete idiot off the court, but he's pretty good on the court.
Yeah, I mean, who's the best basketball player of all time? Arguably, Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. In fact, let's have that conversation of the greatest basketball player of all time. Give me your top three.
Probably Michael Jordan,
Black.
LeBron James.
Black.
You could argue Kobe, but I'm going to say
Black.
Larry Bird.
Dead.
I'm saying Larry Bird. That dude, he was just one of my favorites. I don't know that he was the best, but he's definitely a top 10.
Yeah, he's top 10. But the top three that they always talk about are Jordan, Kobe, and then LeBron.
Right. So if this was such, I'm glad you said that. It just made me think, if this was such a systemic issue, if we had this widespread systemic racism in the U.S., that system would be responsible for the NBA not having some of the best basketball players ever to be black. That literally throws the systemic racism conversation flat on its face.
Right. I mean, it's just one example. I mean, we could go find more if we need to, but it's the point. Actually, I love.
We need to.
I mean, we can. I do love the part that you brought up because, when they say that we want equality. Well, we're not 50-50. Like you're a minority in straight up numbers, and so. I would love to look up like what is the percentage, of Black America, like in the what's the collage look like? How many people are white? Like we just broke down the players, in the NBA. What does that look like for the United States? Because is it 20%? You said it's 22% or something.
So I just pull it up real quick. According to Wikipedia, the 2020 census says Black or African Americans. So Black or African Americans is 12.1%.
12%. So in any organization, equality wise, you would have to have a makeup, mirroring the real world.
If we're going to go by the straight numbers, right?
You go by the straight numbers. So that means that, there should be only 12% in the NFL. How many players in the NFL are Black? I think it's a little bit more than 12%. I mean, even baseball.
Yeah, and just about any sport, probably besides hockey. But hockey, you can say it's white, but the majority of those people are from Europe or Russia or, wherever else. A very small number come from the U.S. in particular, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I think anything that's over, a density of 12%, then it is equal. And so in this case, you've got GMs in the league that's 22% of the NFL is led by Blacks. And so they are outpacing their population. Where's the lie?
Yeah, and according to Statista in 2020, 57.5% of NFL players were Black.
I mean, there you go.
So again, far outpacing this systemic racism in the country.
Have you noticed, like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about it like this before, where they've actually like equated out to, when you're talking about opportunities and things like that.
Yeah, I mean,
based on the percentage, of the world. This is
right, because I think they take this word minority and they relate minority to the straight number, as you mentioned. But then they take it to say, well, because we're the minority, we're now less than. But it's literally just the phrase of a simple minority or a simple majority based on numbers, right? If you're not the majority
it's quantity,
in math,
not quality.
yeah, in math in terms of numbers, then you are therefore the minority. That's just how you're
it's arithmetic. That's arithmetic
relegated or
101
whatever
there.
you want to call it. Yeah. So they take this word minority and then all of a sudden it becomes something else. Well, we are a minority. No, you're just a black person. Like you're not less than anyone else. You're not less valuable, less important, besides the marketplace, of course. But in the eyes of the world, outside of what you do, you're not valued less just because you're lumped into a category that some person put a title on.
Yeah, statistics.
Right.
All right.
So let's get some good news.
I mean, let's just shift to some wholesome stuff. And I found this story. I thought you might like this. Did you look at it?
Yeah, this is great.
I mean, it's fantastic. And I like. So here's the thing: this guy, he's breaking world records, and he did it because he was trying to prove a point to his kids, and he's like a teacher, right? And he's just like, you gotta do stuff, and so he broke one world record for each week of the year, 52 weeks. I mean, what else are you going to do in Idaho, right?
Praise be.
Under his eye.
Yeah. This is just another example of white privilege, right?
Dude,
even though anyone could have done this.
I mean, statistically speaking, you had an 82% chance to win.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, this is awesome. Once a week, he just found a world record that he could break. Think about it, like 20, 30 years from now, when your kids or grandkids open up the Guinness Book of World Records, and there's your name 52 times, unless someone's broken it, of course. That's awesome, though. So one thing that he broke was the fastest 100-meter dash while blindfolded. But part of the task was he had to stay within the track markers.
I feel like Usain Bolt could easily win that back.
That'd be great. You see all these high-profile athletes go out and just break his record.
Micah Parsons. I'm the fastest man in the NFL, and I'm going to be the world record holder.
Sorry, sucker. So, all right. That was an awesome one. That was a great find, Dayton.
Thanks.
That was a great find.
Do a little research, and I found, that I was like, oh, look, record-breaking stuff. Cool. That's wholesome.
Mr. Producer, are you ready? Let's hit us with this next.
Here we go.
Whatever thing you called it. Intro to Chris's Corner. I like that. The flag. He's got Chris's Corner in the corner.
Let's go.
Even though no one puts baby in the corner, we're putting Chris in the corner right now.
Not a chance.
So, not a chance. Some of this we've chatted about a little bit, but what's your take on, Beijing hosting the Olympics? All these countries agree to participate, yet we don't hear people speaking out about like the enormous amount of slaves and slavery that occurs in China.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the NBA player who changed his last name to Freedom, I just think I don't understand why everybody seems to be okay or apathetic to the situation. And it's because they're not involved. It doesn't affect them. They, maybe they don't care. Maybe, I mean, hell, got your Apple phone, you got your, other stuff that, is all made in China. Everything's made in China. So, let's go ahead and have a host country there. Communist regime. They can just haul off reporters as they see fit, like we saw earlier in the show. And I do find it to be completely ridiculous. It's insane. I think maybe a good rule moving forward would be to never have a host country that has a communist regime. There you go. You want the money from the Olympics? Stop being communist.
There you go. So Leah Thomas, your girl Leah Thomas, or your boy,
My
I
girl.
guess in this
My-
case, right? Your boy. So he was ranked 462nd as a male swimmer, is now ranked number 1 as a female swimmer, and the Ivy League is letting him participate in the swimming finals or the playoffs, whatever competition they have. I mean, isn't this just a huge degradation to every other swimmer that's swims alongside him? Because they're all female besides him.
Do you remember when the left used to accuse the Republicans, the right, of having a war on women? And it was just outrageous, the stuff that they would say. But then that they've literally taken it. It is a war on women. What we're talking about now is eliminating women's sports. Like, what is the point of having women's sports if you're going to allow a biological male to compete in the female and then recognize that biological male as the winner or in any result? I mean, what is the point of having women's sports anymore? And so now you're eliminating the opportunity for women to come together, play on teams, have success, compete, struggle, learn the lessons of leadership, and teamwork. All that's going to go by the wayside. I mean, think about it. Why would all those swimmers? Why would the next generation of little girls ever want to pick up a baseball or pick up a basketball or play hockey or do anything if they're going to allow? They're not allowing. They're just eliminating girls' sports at this point.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, right?
Right.
So moving on here. Let's see. So European nations are out there removing mandates. Do you think the U.S. is going to follow? And this is this coming to the end of the pandemic? Are we seeing it unfold?
This is it. Cue the fat lady because it's over. COVID fat lady. That needs to be a meme. Somebody needs to make a meme of the fat lady singing because it's over. We're not going to, have. We're not going to have mandates anymore. I mean, even New Jersey, the governor of New Jersey, who's a pretty staunch Democrat, just lifted all their restrictions and the mandates and the mask mandate for school because they know that this is over. The opportunity to control people, it's run its course. And like we saw in that clip on the CNN interview, that woman said it perfectly, that it's got to shift back. It was never intended. 2 weeks to flatten the curve was never intended to control everybody for 2 years.
My favorite part of that too was when she's like, and the science is now changing. No, the science has never changed. Just our perception of it has.
Well, I feel like we have a lot more data because back in 2020, March of 2020, when this is rolling out and they closed on schools, I remember thinking like, God, this is kind of extreme. Like, Trump is talking about closing the border to China and these countries, and they're like holding cruise ships offshore, and then they canceled the NCAA tournament, and like all this stuff was starting to happen, and I was like, is this that serious? Because we didn't know. We didn't know if you got COVID, if you were it was a death sentence. You know what I mean? And now we know it's not. It sucks. It's not fun to get sick. Nobody likes getting sick, but it's not a death sentence. And so now that party's over.
Every time you say certain things, I feel like you're going to roll into the Donald Trump voice, but you don't. Nobody likes getting sick.
Everybody knows that you're not going to get sick from the COVID. It's not so good. Let's just say it's not so good.
So the last thing here, as first spoken about, or at least I saw it spoken about by Colin Cowherd, Is Matt Stafford better than Aaron Rodgers?
If he wins the Super Bowl, he is.
Why do you think that?
Well, because I think, the stats are there, and I think this has been a referendum on Stafford's career this year, showing that it does matter where you play. It does matter the team and the leadership of the team that you're on and their front office and their ability to assemble talent to go and working side by side with, great quarterbacks. And Stafford's always had the talent. Everybody's known that he's had talent. It's never been a surprise. Aaron Rodgers is incredibly talented. But, man, I guess the argument would be if Aaron Rodgers goes to a different team next year and then goes to the Super Bowl.
Or doesn't.
Then does that, say a lot about Aaron Rodgers. And I just think, Stafford being 0-3 with the Lions in 12 years in the playoffs, goes to the Rams and now is 3-0, looking to win his first Super Bowl. I mean, if he wins the Super Bowl, he will have a 4-3 record in the playoffs with one Super Bowl win. He's probably got a good shot at being Super Bowl MVP if that happens. Right? Because if they're going to beat the Bengals, you're going to need Stafford to show up in a big time way. And so, I'm going to have to lean towards, Stafford is better.
This is a tough one. I think Stafford's a great quarterback, and this is not Chad's corner. This is Chris's corner. But
we're done with my corner.
I think I'd probably take Aaron Rodgers. I think Stafford's great, and I love Stafford because he played in Detroit for so long. But I think Aaron Rodgers, he's more mobile quarterback, and he's done a lot of great things. And I think the biggest test of what you say is if Aaron Rodgers does go to a different team. Because the challenge with Rodgers is they've lost quite a few NFC championship games, right? And divisional round games that
at home.
Right, especially after ending the year with the best record in the league.
Yeah, he said something about he didn't want to be part of a rebuild. Bro, you were the number one seed there, Captain State Farm. So
yeah,
you're not in a rebuild. You're the number one seed. I don't know, man. Here's a question. 1 minute and 42 seconds on the clock. You're down by 4. You have one timeout. You got the ball. You got the ball, and you're on the 25-yard line. You got to go the length of the field. You want Stafford or you want Rodgers? I'll take Stafford.
I mean, you can't argue Stafford's fourth quarter coming back to win, right? So let's
just say.
Let's hammer through some of this here. I think this is just really good stuff. This trucker convoy, and Trudeau's hiding because he got COVID, so it probably feels like he got hit by a truck, right? So he's trying to avoid that at all costs.
I mean, it's this is a mess, dude. This could change the landscape of a lot of things, but this is also why I kind of answered the question. I feel like the COVID party's over because you've got mass groups of people lining up to make sure that it's over. From the truckers up in Canada, locking down Ottawa, forcing the Prime Minister of Canada to go into hiding because he's afraid of his own people.
Why? These truckers in their trucks are coming after him, even though they're stationary.
It's an insurrection. But you've even got like high school kids across America walking out of their schools because of the mask mandates. They're like, we're not going to do it anymore. And the school says, well, if you don't wear a mask, you're not going to be here. And so they just all get up and leave.
Yeah. Are you threatening a high school kid that he doesn't have to come to school?
Deuces.
Yeah. All right. Later.
So, yeah, I mean, look at this. I mean, I don't know if you can throw that picture up, but that's, I believe, the Ambassador Bridge.
Yes, sir.
No. it was locked down. That's my neck of the woods here in Detroit, the one of the most busiest international crossings in the country. And
This looks like the Canadian side.
Can we get these truckers to maybe go to the southern border and see if they can help out there? I don't know. I don't like that would be great.
But man, so you have this whole thing with GoFundMe, right? And there was a lot about them donating the money to charitable causes at one point, which I don't know if that's what they started to do or not, but that's super shady if they were looking at going that direction.
Well, they were looking to go that direction. 2, the backlash was so severe that they immediately backtracked on that and said, you know what, we're just going to refund everybody. In fact, what they did was they said, well, no, that we're just going to have you guys send in a refund request and then we'll give you your money. And if we don't have it, if people don't request it, then we're going to give it to other charities. And it was like, no. You can't do that.
I mean, I could.
And so then they said,
I could play devil's advocate here a little bit, if you want.
Let's go.
So, basically, the charities that they were going to give the money to, they said was going to be chosen by the Freedom Convoy. So it wasn't just random charities. To be fair, again, playing a little bit of devil's advocate. I'm not saying I agree with that decision. However, it wasn't just random charities or organizations that they were just going to give the money to. So, but I'm glad that they did backpedal this and just say we're just going to issue refunds.
Yeah, it's like the stupidest thing ever. So if you don't like the Freedom Convoy here for whatever they were doing, but even if you are going to say, well, hey, we'll let them choose where the money's going to go, what do you think those companies are going to turn around and do? And the thing that I think is tough about this is what would they have done had they maybe chose a company that was going to support the truckers, right? It's like you go down this line and like you said here, so it says from GoFundMe here, the update we issued earlier enabled all donors to get a refund and outline a plan to distribute remaining funds to verified charities selected by the Freedom Convoy organizers. However, due to donor feedback, we are simplifying the process. We will automatically refund all contributions directly. Donors do not need to submit a request. So it's just crazy that there's these companies out there that are going to give you a platform like you mentioned, Chris, to do a certain thing. And then when they don't like it, they're going to, you have to at first submit a request to get your money refunded. No, I submitted my money to this specific cause. If you're not going to let me do it, I shouldn't have to submit a request, do the right thing, and refund it because you've already done the wrong thing.
Yeah. You can't say, hey, we're a platform and acting as a conduit, a crowdsourcing platform where we allow you to send and collect money to be distributed for what you're, channeling it to, and then decide, oh, well, we're going to step in and not let that happen now. Especially when you've done that in the past. I mean, just look at the GoFundMe stuff that's happened for all the rioting, Black Lives Matters,
people getting bailed out of jail. Where do you draw that line? And that's the point. You're either a platform or you're a publisher. See, we should send them a bill too. I don't like you being the authoritarian in this situation. I just think it's a slippery slope. And I think people like DeSantis in Florida are going to lead that charge. And there's a lot of people who are jumping on that bandwagon. I kind of looked that up, and there are a lot of state AGs who are like, yeah, we're going to have a conversation about this. Because
it's one thing when you're censoring ideas or conversation, like Facebook, or we're going to not let you be on this platform or whatever. It's a whole nother when you take people's money and then you're like, oh, we're going to do something different with it. You can't do that. Not in America, and not operate in America. It's just not going to fly here.
It's like there's a silent train out there, and it's slowly gaining steam. And it's at the point where pretty soon it's going to have enough steam where you're not going to be able to stop it. We're going to see that in the midterms, I think. We're going to see that in 2024. It's going to be interesting to see what unfolds here, especially to see how fast this COVID mask mandate and all that stuff gets lifted. Is it a few weeks or is it a few months?
All right. My bold prediction.
Ooh.
Here, let me get my calendar in here.
All right, your bold prediction. And then we'll end it with Rams, Bengals.
Yep. By March 21st, COVID will be done.
Oof.
That'll be 2 years. That'll be 2 years to flatten the curve. Not 2 weeks,
then
2 years. But then everything will be lifted and back to normal. And the dialogue will be, it's now your personal responsibility. That's what you hear from the left. It's time that people take personal responsibility for their choices. We have enough data. We have enough science to know that everybody's had their vaccines, and that's going to be the rhetoric because they're 6 months out from an election at that point, and that's when they're going to want to. Yeah,
and then hopefully in 2023 we can see Joe Biden do a press conference about the 1 year COVID lockdown anniversary. Just like he did with the January 6th insurrection.
Yep.
Another momentous day in history.
Maybe he'll whisper about everything. And then start yelling real loud.
You stupid son of a...
Come on, man.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. All right, Super Bowls this weekend. Who you got?
Gotta go Rams. The Rams they got one of the best all-around teams. The only other team that I think would have competed well against the Rams is the Bills. And the Bills are no longer in the playoffs. Aaron Donald's going to swallow up Joe Burrow like a anaconda going after its prey.
Yeah, I like the Bengals. I really do. I like Joe Burrow. I love Jamar Chase. I think LSU connection is,
that's awesome.
Legit.
I love that.
I do. I think it's fantastic. But I also think that Joe Burrow got sacked a whole bunch in that Tennessee game. And you know who Tennessee doesn't have? They don't have Von Miller. You know who else they don't have? They don't have Aaron Donald. And they don't have Jalen Ramsey. And so if Tennessee did that to you just a couple weeks ago, good luck. You're now going against a very angry Aaron Donald who wants to win really, really bad. And I love your offense, Cincinnati, but I just don't see you hanging tight. I think Joe Burrow's inexperience, year two, I think on that stage, I think he's going to play well, but I don't think he's going to play great. I think that pressure is going to get to him. And I think the experience of Stafford, the balance of that offense, I think OBJ coming over and really integrating into that is going to be huge. And I think, the Rams are going to get their points. For sure. They're a great offense. Cooper Kupp, they got good running game. And I just think the difference is going to be the Rams defense. I think they're going to show up and they're going to make big time plays in a big time game because that's what big time people do.
Final score.
I'm going to go. I am going to go Rams 33, Bengals 24.
That's funny. So I think the Rams are going to start off hot. They're going to take a big lead going into the half. The final score, the Bengals are going to put some points on the board in the second half. It's going to be 30-17.
30-17. So I got 33-24 Rams.
30-17. Rams are going to win.
Rams. All right. Well, until next week, we'll find out then. Commander, Enjoy the week.
Commander Dayton,
Commander Whalls,
blessed be the fruit.
under his eye.
Have a great week.